Call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Finance for Tuesday, July 16th, 2019. And Jim Palin said that he was en route on the next train, so he should be here shortly. Let me start my timings here. Hold on.
Have you heard from Jamie? Do we need to squeeze him out of the chair?
No, Jamie's not going to make the meeting today. So, okay, so we've got some transfers up. First one has to do with some police training. Chief, you guys want to talk about that? Right up at the mic.
Sergeant Moore that I brought with me, I think he might have some information on your second question. But first question is about the transfer to the officer.
Right, so yeah, so this one pertains to full-time salaries for transfer to cover his salary, and so this is because we're hiring somebody from the town of Bethel.
Yes.
That would be
per Connecticut General Statute 7-299DD. If we hire an officer from another agency that has less than 2 years since his date of certification, the hiring agency is responsible for paying 50% of the training costs of that officer to the department that's losing him. I talked this over with Kate when this gentleman that we hired applied. It's still a tremendous savings to us, even though we have to pay this amount of money to Bethel PD. He's a certified police officer. We're putting him on the road basically 3 weeks after we hire him because he's certified, he's already trained. All he needs is a modified FTO program of 3 weeks with us. Had we not hired a certified officer, he would have had to go to the academy for 3 months, go to FTO training for 480 hours. He would not be on the road as a certified officer until March of 2020. So, as you can see, it's a substantial savings to the town and a benefit to the town.
both time and money. That's great.
Right.
Any questions for the chief?
Is this the right line for it to come from? Should it come from a training expense, some other training?
There is no other training expense within their department. They had vacancies throughout their department, so we're moving money from salaries to training.
Okay, other questions? Now, this sounds like a great move today. Any particular reason he was attracted to Darien?
You want the truth?
Yeah.
More money,
No,
better
actually, I'd
benefits.
like a fun kind of story, actually.
More money, better benefits.
Okay.
That's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line.
And,
Excellent.
He's a good guy, very qualified. He just was attracted to someplace that paid a little bit better and had in law enforcement today, pension plans are huge. Bethel was severely lacking. Ours was more attractive. And he felt if he was going to make a move, he had to make the move while he was still, didn't have too much time invested with the Bethel PD.
Plus, be completely honest, Darien's got the best police department in Connecticut. There's no doubt about that. There you go.
That falls
Can I get
into
an
it.
amen on that? Okay.
Hey, John, can I just ask a
Please.
quick question? Sorry. Chief, is that the one open position that we had?
We do have another opening right now.
So it's two, right?
Yeah, and
So now we're down to one.
September 1st, there will be another opening.
Okay.
Mine.
You know
Right.
what?
Congrats.
We're currently in the hiring process and taking applications again.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions? Motion to approve? Okay. Okay, Diana. Okay. All in favor? Okay, motion approves. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Okay. Next is, so this is about various departments, and this is for accrued leave redemption. Looks like we have two different transfers for that. Jennifer, you want to take us through that?
Sure, and then I just wanted to remind you that we have the resolution for the police grant.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's this right here. Right. Do we need to do other business for that, or?
Yep, you have to vote to add it.
Okay, so let me have a motion to do other business to cover this grant. Frank, Diana, all in favor? Okay, Jennifer, you want to take us through this?
Well,
Actually, gentlemen,
Chief is here,
that's
and he knows
okay.
better than me.
Okay,
Sure.
tell us about it, Chief.
Okay, so the Connecticut Information Sharing System, known as CISS, basically it will allow for an interface between the police department's RMS, Records Management System, and the Stamford Court System's judicial system to communicate and transfer case information without the need of paper reports being printed and a representative from the police department having to deliver the documents to the court. So this is basically all our police reports, all of the court paperwork, all the court documents, everything that needs to go down to Stamford Court is going to go electronically. This is the way things are going to be done in the future. Sooner or later, every police department is going to have to be set up this way. Currently, they're not. I brought Sergeant Marr along because he is kind of the guru behind this. He is our IT guy. He's got a great working relationship with our vendor, Tritech/Central Square. Because of all the work that he's done, we've been able to get, we're a beta testing agency for this, and we're going to get a $450,000 grant from the state of Connecticut to test this software out. And Sergeant Moore is going to work with them. It's going to be incremental. The money will be paid from the state to us, and then we have to pay the vendor, Central Square Tritech.
Can you take a minute and describe kind of what we're doing now, and how is it set up today, and
What we do
what do we
now-
have today?
Well, anytime an arrest is made, a ticket is written, police report has to go to court, it has to be physically delivered down to the court system, okay, by an officer. It's usually our records officer has to drive it down there, spend some time down there, deliver copies to the prosecutor's office, to the court clerk's office, to the defense attorney's office, public defender's office. There's like 5 different people that need copies of it. This is going to allow us to just have everything loaded electronically and shoot it down to the court that way. We don't have to bring the stuff down there. Eventually, this is going to be mandatory throughout the state in the coming years, but we're kind of cutting edge here on this, and like I said,
It's a statewide initiative, so what they're
Okay.
doing is they're taking every vendor, because in order to be a RMS CAD vendor in the state, you have to meet certain qualifications. So what the state did from the CISS group, they pulled all the vendors together and says, we need to meet these requirements in order to expedite the system. And it goes into various things, like you said, Chief said, to court, it goes to judicial probation, all that information gets electronically transferred. It also does other things in addition to that, like once we arrest somebody, we fingerprint them and have their information, it automatically sends that to the bail commissioner so that they have their information. The grand scheme with the whole state is they wanted to try to automate all this, again, to make it more efficient because it is a kind of redundant and meticulous system that they have to do. Whenever you have an arrest, you have to make so many photocopies of this, so many photocopies of that. You have to have things ordered in a certain way. So what they're trying to do is trying to organize it, and that's why they're doing it on a statewide initiative. So every vendor within the state is doing this program, and each vendor has to sort of pick their pilot program, where the pilot agency, sponsor agency is gonna be, and then the state has to then approve it. So on both levels, we've been approved by the state, and our vendor has selected us to do that. And then by engaging them in this initiative, it's gonna allow them to build the interface and all the modules that they need to the state's requirements, but then it allows us to test it, and we kind of have insight to be like, okay, it really should maybe do something like this to function a little bit better. So we're gonna have stake in the game as far as saying, well, maybe something like this might make it a little bit easier to still accomplish the state's goals. So that's kind of why they selected our department to do it.
Right.
Just because of our working relationship we've had with them. And this also too is in an assistance with it is helping us because we're getting a new RMS, an upgraded RMS system, which all of this is going to be coming together with.
There's actually a question I had. So of the $451,000, is there any expenditure that we're going to have to make as a town to support that? So is any of our infrastructure inadequate to the task, or is there some ongoing expense after this that is incremental to what we're spending today?
So everything is going to be within the RMS system that we currently have. It's just going to be added on software applications, like code that'll be on there that'll be doing the transfer of the data. The way, again, this was all something that was worked, like I said, when the state put it together with the vendors. They put out an RFQ and an RFP. Everybody applied. They worked out the details as far as what specifications they had to meet. After they did that, that's how they came up with that number, which is comprised of several different factors that they put together as far as development, testing, partial maintenance of it. So it kind of throws all that together, and then the state and the vendor work that out, and then it has to come through us, because the state will not, they have something that the Attorney General, I guess, put in that's like they cannot work directly there's something prohibiting them with working directly to the vendor. So that's why they have to do it through a pilot agency. And then, as the chief said, that's all done on milestones. So we'll do certain marks through the project. We'll be hitting certain milestones. They'll submit us an invoice. We pass it up to the state, and then the money will cycle through. So we are not out any money for the 451,000. I
Okay.
believe that was the number that they.
And what do you think, once this grant's approved, what's the timing of the receipt of funds and then the timing of the implementation of all this? How long do you think all that will take?
I don't think they ever mentioned anything on that. I know they've already started part of this project with another one of their sub-companies that they have. So some of the groundwork has already been developed as far as for just in general.
They've
So-
explained to us it's all going to be incremental, and there's benchmarks that they have to meet, so
Yeah.
it kind of depends on how that goes.
Okay,
And it's also coordinating other things with the state, because they have to do testing on their end and back and forth. So I think no matter what we said, if we said 3 months, it'll be around that, but that's dependent upon a lot of factors.
okay. Any questions for these gentlemen? Frank?
Does the department have exposure here? If, I don't know, if 451,000 isn't enough somehow, or?
That's already agreed upon, like I said, the state and the vendors have all agreed upon that when they submitted the RFPs and RFQs for all their responses and everything settled, so the contracts between them are already set for the amount.
They've told us that they're responsible for getting a complete program up and working for this.
Once the program is up and working, it then just gets integrated into whatever we're doing now. Will there be additional costs associated with maintaining this software, or?
They've assured us that our current costs should remain the same or just a slight increase, the normal increases that they normally go up every year.
And then are there cost savings that come in with respect to not having to photocopy things and?
That's where we'll realize savings. We'll realize savings on not having to deliver everything down to court. We have to go to court almost every day sometimes with paperwork. And the only time we'd really have to go to court is when we physically have to bring a body down there, not a body, a prisoner down there.
They don't have the teleport either.
Yeah, that might be coming.
That's next, right?
So it would save man hours and save paperwork.
Rob?
Couple of questions. How many beta agencies are they going to try this on?
How many
You know,
states?
with-
Well, each vendor has one.
Yeah,
That's one, so
Yeah,
we're at,
so for our vendor for the state, we are the selected.
we're the one. Is there a statute or law, you were guys talking about that the state is moving in this direction? Is there a anticipated implementation date?
It's a mandate.
Mandate?
Yeah.
Is there a date?
I was not aware of one. I don't think they
They
mentioned it.
they didn't give us a date, no.
Yeah,
And
but
my-
there is a bill or something that they did officially that says we have to be on this, and that was why they had to do things with the vendors. I mean, I'm sure they have a deadline that they have to have everything done by, as far as, a pilot program being finished and completed, and being validated and approved.
Okay. And my last question, is there any information going into this system that's not currently on, I guess, the paper files, if you want to call it? It sounds like we're just digitalizing, lack of a better word, or moving documents along. Is there any other info that's going in there that's not in the paper files, lack of a better word, that are going over now? So I guess my question is there any other added information you guys have to add to this system that you currently don't have?
Not that I'm aware of, right?
Yeah, there was something with a couple of forms that they had to do, but it was nothing that you currently didn't do either by typing it or signing it or handwriting it. A lot of the forms they have are triplicate copy, old state style forms. So all of that stuff is sort of gonna be in this one thing, and scanned documents and everything will go through. But those would be like some things that we probably wouldn't normally send out, or you'd have to send out on copy paper when requested.
Okay.
And how much training has to be done internally on this?
There is a training aspect to it, yes. Once it's up and running, it's going to be a new system, so that will require some amount of training. But fortunately, we have Sergeant Moore here that can handle a lot of that, and we can do it in-house,
And he has a lifetime employment contract and can't leave? Okay, just checking.
pretty much.
Other questions? Okay, well, gentlemen, thank you. This is a great initiative. I'm glad we were selected to do this initially and to work.
It's all him.
It's all you, Sergeant, thank you. Motion to approve? Rob, second, Diana. All in favor? Super. Thanks very much, appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
You bet.
And And a question for Jen, how does this get reflected on our financial statements?
It will, once it's approved by the Board of Selectmen and the RTM, it'll flow through our grant fund. So we'll have the revenue come into the grant fund and the expense of the vendor will go out of the grant fund, which is multi-year. So if it does go beyond the end of the fiscal year, the funds are still available.
And do we have to approve the expenditure then, or?
That's what this does. This was written up by our council to accept the funds as
Oh,
well
yeah.
as
Okay,
appropriate.
gotcha, thanks.
So does like the entire grant come in at 1 year budget, and then if we spend the money over 2, does it show up as expense over 2?
No, because I think it's gonna be based on their milestones that are laid out for, implementation, testing, validation. So as they work through the project, a part of the grant will come to us and go right out the door to the vendor.
Okay, next is department salaries and accrued leave redemption. Looks like we have 2 transfer requests from that, for
Right.
that.
The first one for $166,000 is related to the settlement of the town hall union contract and the police contract.
Okay,
So the bulk of it is moving, all but 26,000 of this is moving from the employee's salary set aside because the contracts weren't final when we put together the budget, and moving it into the appropriate full-time salary and part-time salary accounts for the union members. The other piece of it for $26,814, part of the contracts that we settled were included a provision to move all pay to 1 week in arrears. Along with that, or union members were able to elect to sell back accrued time. So those who chose to sell back time, it gets charged to the accrued leave line, and so as part of the contract settlement, this transfer is cleaning up what they elected to sell back.
so that provision was the inducement to get them to agree to, okay. So being paid 1 week in arrears, does that put them on the same basis with however
Yeah.
all of the town employees are paid?
Everybody, all
And now is
town
everybody on the
employees.
same system?
Yes.
Congratulations. I know you've been
It's a
waiting for that.
beautiful thing.
I know you've been waiting for that. That's a good thing. Okay. Now, there's a second transfer here. Is that is, it's the same thing, but what's the
It's
difference?
same account, but for different reasons.
Okay,
So the second one that you have for $60,940, the one similarity is the non-union employees, when we moved them back, although there wasn't a contractual requirement, they were not eligible for any retro payments like the union contracts were, and so they were given the same option to sell back time. So the non-unions actually sold back about $36,000 worth of time. The other item going through this is the retirements throughout the year. We had 2 significant payouts for police retirements. So the budget of $75,000 wasn't enough to cover the retirements as well as the non-union payout.
oh, so 75 plus the 60 covers all that?
Right.
Got it, okay. I understand this and seems, acceptable. Anybody have any questions about this? Okay, so we'll take both transfers. The first one for $166,180, motion to approve. Paul, second. Rob, all in favor? And then the second one for $60,940, motion to approve. Diana, second. Paul, all in favor? Okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay, next item is the employee, let's see here. This is employee benefits accrued, emergency medical service.
Last month, when I gave you the financial report, I kind of gave you the preview that this might be coming. We did receive our 4th quarter bill from Stanford, and the transfer is needed. Our contract for paramedic services requires that they be paid $100,000 per quarter. The billings for their services go to them first, and the town is responsible for the difference. So we did bring the budget down $10,000 because Post 53 was going to be changing their billing practices, and we expected the collections to improve. That didn't happen. They did change their collection agency, and it took a while for that process to ramp up and for the transition to occur. So there was a lag in billing. Collections seem to be very good right now. The other cause of this deficit is that they actually had a reduction in call volume. in fiscal 19, which was odd for them because for several years, year over year, they've seen increases in the number of calls. So with the reduction in calls, reduction in billing and collection, and so the town bore more of that $100,000 per quarter cost.
What was the total call volume in 18 versus 19? Do you have, I mean, I should get a sense for how big
I think
43
it's
is
a
relative to,
It's roughly 40 calls per month.
okay, so this is a big change.
Yes, yeah, it was
Okay.
significant.
Was any of that driven by a perceived cost of this service or? any
Not
other
that I'm
just-
aware of.
Okay.
And Post 53 was keeping an eye on it because they found it odd that the call volume had gone down.
Okay.
The communication that I got is they're gonna keep an eye on it. They expect it to go up because that has been the trend, but we'll have to.
Do you have any other data on just the amounts that are outstanding and what's being collected? So in other words, if they've got
How
a
much
particular,
it is.
particular balance that they are working to collect, has that balance increased or decreased over time? Was there a spike when they first came on and now it's bled down? How would you assess that?
That I don't have. I don't have their aging reports. They handle all the billing through Post 53, gets the calls, handles the information collection, and hands it off to their billing service.
And do they also handle what they decide to write off if it's not collectible and all that, or is that something? you
That's not a
visit?
discussion that we've had since they changed billing services, and we can certainly have that conversation with them.
Okay,
But we did have a conversation probably about a year ago. They were looking for some guidance on how aggressive they should be with collections, and we did give them the okay to be a bit more aggressive because they weren't sending out a lot of follow-ups. And
okay.
Who's they, the agency or Post 53?
at that time, I think it was a different agency, but it's at the direction of Post 53. Post 53 was telling their collections agency to go ahead and be more aggressive with the outstanding.
Is the fall in call volume, is that a public health improvement in some way, shape, or form, like reduced overdoses or
I don't
substance
know.
abuse kind of?
I don't
It's a
know.
good thing, no matter
Yeah,
what.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Yeah, if there's less need for the advanced paramedic services, that's a good thing.
It's good.
But
Do you
just,
have a s-
these were,
Do you have a sense of how much of the gap is due to delays in billing and how much is due to this decline in calls?
The decline in calls after the third quarter, the value of it was about $20,000. It was about $20,000 off from the previous year because of the decrease in calls. So by the end of the year, I think that was up to about $25,000. Had we received the same number of calls as last year, we would have gotten about $25,000 more collected.
So does that lead us to think we have to renegotiate the contract with Stanford at some point, or?
It does come due at some point, and it's something that, if we see that the call volume is down, it's something that would factor into the negotiations on the contract.
Do we know how long that contract's running for, John?
I don't recall.
Yeah, to Diana's point, I think that's the natural next step here, right? Because if you were saying there's about 40 calls a month, 480 a year, 43 less, looking at 8,
Right, so
7,
if that trend
8%.
continues, that's definitely something that needs to be
Okay,
considered.
this is just basically truing up the year.
This is truing up the dollars on our side on the year,
Mhm.
but understanding that in the background is how they're collecting and the fact that they changed billing as well as the reduction in the call volume. That's
Got it.
driving this need for a transfer.
just one question. It said that this was a reduction in the number of times that the paramedic was called. So like, what's their total call volume?
Total
So,
Post 53 call volume?
I was trying to think, is this a reduction in total volume or just in the dispatch? Because we don't control whether a paramedic's dispatched, is that correct?
I don't know I don't know their dispatching criteria.
Okay.
I only see the calls that required paramedic service, that we can bill out for paramedic service and then send the collections over to Stanford EMS. Their total call volume, we don't see that.
Okay, other questions about this? Motion to approve? Rob, second, Jim. All in favor? Okay, 6-0. Thank you. All right, that's it for transfers. Let's discuss and take action on the rescission of the DHS storage shed bond authorization. So we talked about this last time, and as the resolution says here, when we approved the authorization for them to invest in a storage shed, which was subsequently approved for bonding and approved for appropriation by the RTM. That project didn't move forward. The Board of Education has said that they are going to do something different in any case, and I just have not heard from them in terms of what their specific plan is, but even their own internal discussion suggested that they needed to take a step back and rethink that. So it makes sense for us to rescind this authorization and allow them to come forward with a new proposal when it is convenient for them. Anything to add to that, Jennifer?
No,
Okay.
that sums it up.
All right, so what this resolution is plays out those facts, and as it says at the end, be it resolved that the finance director, Jennifer, is hereby directed to make appropriate entries in the accounts of the town to close out and eliminate this authorization. Anybody have any questions or comments on that?
Yeah, John,
John,
I just had, I was gonna just make a suggestion here to
Yeah.
replace the whereas the project will not be moving forward. Just kind of given all the discussion that's going around. I was gonna suggest that we just replace that with, the Board of Education, one, has not expended any of the appropriated funds for the project as of the date hereof. And then two, it's stated at its June 25th meeting that it no longer needed, it's no longer in need of the appropriation for the project. So that it, just so that it's clear that, in terms of, they haven't spent any money.
Well, I think it's,
And that was just the actual resolution. What I was gonna say is, the board voted on what the letter was going to say when they sent to us.
I think the term project in this case is the project that was authorized. So it's not saying that there will not be a storage shed at the high school. It's just saying that the project as authorized is not moving forward, which it's not.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to, since this is our resolution here, I just thought it would be helpful to make it clear that we're not just yanking an authorization. I thought this would sort of codify the fact that they just haven't spent any money, and that they actually voted, what I read was exactly what Tara read on, that they all voted on. So I just thought it would be good for the record, just to show that they haven't spent the money and that they stated they no longer need it.
Right, the resolution doesn't make it clear that
Okay.
they haven't spent money.
Yeah.
All right, why don't you state that so we can get that clear for the record and put this in the resolution? Can you state that?
Yeah, so what I was gonna propose is that we replace, whereas the project will not be moving forward, with the following. Whereas the Board of Education, one, has not expended any of the appropriated funding for the project as of the date hereof, and two, stated at its June 25th, 2019 regular meeting that it is no longer in need of the authorization for the project. And that second little statement is just what they all voted on
Okay.
at like 40 minutes into the meeting, so just.
I don't see any harm in this modification. Jennifer, do you?
No, if you can send me that exact wording, I'll edit this, because this also has to go to the RTM.
Okay. Any other comments or suggestions? Okay, motion to approve this authorization, or this resolution with, including Jim's amendments. Rob, second. Paul, all in favor? Terrific. Okay, thank you, Jim. That's great. Okay. Let's see, financial report, Jennifer.
We're still closing out fiscal 19, but you have in front of you a companion, kind of a summary sheet to go along with the financial report. As of the financial report, our current revenue postings were about $145.6 million. I've listed out a couple of items that had not yet been posted. They will be moving through. And so our projected revenue is going to be about $145.8 million against a $146 million budget. So a revenue shortfall from budget of about $187,000. But on the expenditure side, we're expecting a significant surplus. So the projection for expenditures is $144.5 million. And that's about just under a $1.5 million surplus on the expenditure side. At the bottom of the page, it shows what the most significant variances are on the revenue and expenditure sides. So on our revenue side, we're much better than budget on taxes, interest income, and intergovernmental revenue, and those pretty much offset our shortfall in building permits, as well as the additional $855,000 that was appropriated throughout the year. On the expenditure side, our transfer to the reserve for capital non-recurring is gonna be about $400,000 less than budgeted because of the additional revenue that came into that fund, which was primarily the Town Aid Road Grant and LoCIP grant, which were budgeted very conservatively. We have about $300,000 remaining in contingency. And then we had a couple of small surpluses in debt service, police department administration, and benefits. They were about $50,000 each.
So I'm sorry, are these deficits or surpluses?
On the expenditure side, oh, sorry, those are surpluses.
Okay, all right. I was gonna need defibrillation. They all look like deficits to me.
Yeah, those are all good.
Okay,
Yeah, those are surpluses, sorry about that.
okay,
So overall, what that means is our result of operations is gonna be about $1.2, $1.3 million positive.
Okay.
We have a couple of other transfers coming in from the fund closeouts that we did earlier in the year. And all told, that's gonna be about a increase of $1.5 million to our fund balance,
okay.
which will put us at 16.7% of the fiscal '20 adopted budget.
Is there any uncertainty associated with this? I noticed somewhere in the financial report that there was a portion of the excess cost reimbursement that had yet to be received. Is there anything else here that?
We've received all of that. The big unknown is, so the numbers that I just gave you assume that the full Board of Education appropriation is expended. They
Okay.
received significantly more for their excess cost reimbursement than what was budgeted. So we would expect some of that to come back to us, but we do not have a final number on
And
that.
so this does not reflect that?
This
So
does
that-
not assume anything coming back from them.
What's the timing of when we would know that?
Normally, they've been able to give us a number late August after they complete their reconciliation with us. I don't know if that may be delayed because of their change in staff now.
Okay. Any other uncertainties with this, particularly on the downside that you're having
No,
concern about?
that was the most significant, and it's definitely on the plus side.
Okay. Other questions for Jennifer?
The contributions from fund balance, the 855,
That was $355 for the Board of Ed wiring project.
Yeah.
And the $500,000 for those 4 capital projects that we approved during the budget vote.
budget,
The fiscal '20 budget, we pulled them out of the budget and decided to
go back.
cover them through a fund balance appropriation. That's the other 500 in there.
But it was a 2019.
Right, because the action was taken in 2019, it's an appropriation in 2019,
Okay.
even though they were originally in the 2020 budget.
And we kind of had a feeling on the building permits, we might have been a little high. What do we, just, sorry, Jen, for what did we put in there for 19 and 20? Did we-
Again,
did we-
about half of
Half of what we-
would expect from those
Okay.
projects, which is around 750,000.
We don't have any new news on the timing.
No.
Okay, I think so far the closeout of the last fiscal year looks really great, despite many uncertainties we have faced over the last few months. It actually looks pretty good, and kudos to Jennifer and all the work that she does, not only to keep track of this, but to help us achieve results like this. So thank you. I think I speak for all of us when we say we're grateful, so thank you very much.
Well done.
Can I ask one more question? The 855, that doesn't show up in your little fund balance summary?
You mean in that block for fund balance?
Yeah.
Because it's already captured in the result of operations, because it's running through the revenues and expenditures in fiscal '19.
I'd still look at that, sorry.
So the 855, is that part of the 137 million now?
Yeah,
But it's coming out of fund.
well,
balance.
it's on the revenue side. It's contributing to a shortfall of revenue, because we've budgeted $855,000 to come from
No,
fund
I
balance.
see that, but in your fund balance from 7/118 to projected,
Right,
that 855 was in fund balance on 7/118, right?
right.
But you don't show it in that.
Because we don't actually draw it out, it just flows through the fiscal '19 activity, and whatever the final result of that activity is
Okay.
what
That's the
draws or
debit-
adds to fund
That's the
balance.
debit or credit fund
Okay,
balance, right?
okay, it should have been effectively netted out.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Great. Other questions on the financial report? Okay. So moving on to approval of minutes. I've been through both of these for May 14th and June 18th. I did not have any corrections or edits to these. They look good, so.
There were
thank
two
you.
little typos that I've already communicated with
Okay.
Jennifer that she's gonna make.
Okay,
I can
great.
point them out if you want to know what they are.
I'm sure they're okay. Anybody else have any edits or corrections to any of the minutes? Minutes look okay, gentlemen?
Yeah.
No? Okay, motion to approve the May 14th minutes. Everybody was here for those. Rob, second, Paul, all in favor? 6-0. And then for the June 18th minutes, we were all here except Diana. So, motion to approve those minutes. Paul, second, Rob, all in favor? So I'll do 5-0 to 1 abstention, Diana. Okay. Great. So now we've got special assignments and committee reports. I guess I'll just start with the Oxford Building Committee. As everyone knows, we have the RTM appropriation for the 60 plus $3 million for moving forward with that project. Our strong sense remains that that appropriation is going to be large enough to fund everything that we're planning, but certainly more to come on that. The committee has also finalized their meeting schedule for the rest of this year and into next year, and it's basically twice a month. I think that schedule's been posted, but if not, then I think we're going to look at it and agree on it at the next meeting, which will be this Thursday at 7:30 in the morning. So anyway, I remain very satisfied with that committee. I think it's moving forward quickly, and I think we have a lot of good momentum. So more to come on that, and I'm pretty sure we'll have something to say at every Board of Finance meeting for quite some time. So that's all I had for committee reports on my end. Anybody else have anything to report? Paul?
We had a quarterly pension meeting this afternoon.
Great.
The fund managers were here and presented for the quarter and year-to-date. Both pension funds exceeded their benchmarks by about a percentage point, largely due to equity. Bond returns were slightly less than the benchmark, and their chief strategist indicated he did not see any downturn in the economy for several quarters.
Great. Okay. Rob?
Hey, Jen, when's the auditor show up again? It feels like it's,
They were here last week for preliminary field work,
Yeah.
and they will be back the second week of September.
Belfry Point, anything going on there?
Tomorrow night, we have a joint meeting with the Park and Recs Commission, where we'll be getting some further guidance on the charge to the committee. Really on some of the priorities, it's become apparent that we won't be able to get everything, so we're gonna need a little bit of further guidance on where we prioritize and what are the best trade-offs to be making.
Okay.
Otherwise, the committee's moving forward. We did meet with John and the committee as well to sort of nail down what the budget process would look like for
Right.
the committee, and that was all. Good,
All went
so
well.
it's progressing.
Great. Anything else? Any other committee reports?
Well, I'll just mention,
Francis?
Jamie said the other day that the town is gonna create this,
Oh, right.
something like community values statement. And I just think, and they'll look to us and lots of other people to kind of weigh in on this, and it's just my guess, the way these things normally work, if you don't weigh in pretty quickly, you kind of get lost, and we may want to suggest some language or just a thought in a very positive kind of way that kind of reflects our charge and mandate, just to.
I actually like that idea. That might not be a bad idea, just to restate that and draw a box or a fence around kind of what it is that we do. That's not a bad idea. Maybe we can put that on the agenda for the next meeting and just ponder a draft, a few thoughts to think about that. I like that. It's a good idea.
And Frank, are there any other kind of examples that were sort of floating around out there that included some financial comment in it?
I'll look. I'll see if I can find something.
Any other committee reports? If not, we'll move on to the chairman's report. I guess the one thing I'd say there is that we typically have a Board of Finance member as a participant in or a supporter of union negotiations, and those are, which ones are coming up, Jennifer?
The teachers' negotiation.
Okay, so teachers' negotiations are coming up, and in that case, normally we get an invitation from the Board of Education to appoint someone in that capacity. I have not heard from Tara or anyone else on that board yet in terms of exactly when they need that nomination from us. But what I'd like to do, and I reached out to Tara today and I did not hear from her, what I'd like to do is go ahead and preempt that a bit and see if we can get someone designated from this board so that when they do get to a point that they need to have that, why we've got it all figured out from our end. So Frank, I know we've talked about that, and Jim has volunteered to do that this time around, which I think is terrific. Do you guys have any comments on that, or?
Congratulations.
Congratulations. But I appreciate Jim's willingness to serve on that. I've not done those myself, but I know they're learning experiences, and also good to have someone from this board to participate in something that will be a significant determinant of future expenditures. So thank you for your willingness to do that. Do we need a vote on
I don't think so.
appropriating? I don't think so either. Okay. But that's all I had. In terms of other business, anybody else have anything for the good of the order today? Okay. I think that is it for today. Our next meeting is third week in August. I think that's right.
Yes,
What day is that?
August 20th.
August 20th. Okay. We'll see what the agenda looks like in the run-up to that meeting. In the past, we've canceled the August meeting simply because a lot of folks are out on holiday and there might not be much on the agenda, but we'll play that by ear. But that's it from me. Motion to adjourn. Rob, second. Paul, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.